Good afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon to those of you who are hearing the sound of my voice. Good afternoon to our listeners. Good afternoon to workers on the commute. Those of you who have just finished your day's earnings, and those of you who are now starting your day's earnings, or you're going to another because you have to do extra in these hard times, we salute you. To those of you who are in charge of ensuring that these workers get to and from their destination, and generally the general public, we say good afternoon to you too. Good afternoon to the owners and operators of this great radio station, Mr. Neil IWER George, himself and his family, staff, production team. A pleasant good afternoon to you, and we want to thank you. As always, we will never fail to mention our depth of gratitude to be able to share this platform for positive. As I often say, some people share their platform for negative, and that is not the goal of the radio station, nor that of the Third Empire. So we say good afternoon to you too. The members of the pavilion, those of you out there in the pavilion, we want to say good afternoon to you. You call on a daily basis. Some of you support other programs. We have no issue with that. But we do want to say thank you for all our callers. And we want to encourage you to keep up the discussion. Keep engaging in your own thought, in your own way. No offense taken on the Third Empire. This is cricket. And we play hard. We fight fierce. Bat inside and bowl inside. Yellow or red. And all the colors in between. But at the end of the day, we want to see good cricket. So good afternoon to you too. And a lot on the offering today. Internationally, something has caught my eye with the founder of Evergrande, the property giant at the center of China's housing market slump, has been sentenced to life in prison and had all of his personal property confiscated. That story, the moral of that story is much more important than the details. It just shows you we have a long way to go. I know some of us are fanatical and maniacal about the whole idea of independence and all these things, because again, I will continue to say we like the rituals. This is not a democratic country at all. China is communist. But if you want to see the application of the law and the far-reaching tenets of the law, even for members of the public and public officers and politicians, China has set some very good examples. Not only now, in the past as well. And some might say some very draconian examples. They will not win the International Human Rights Award ever. But they don't care. They have a country to govern. And it sets a high bar for politicians, for people who are in charge of the public purse, and who are endowed with public trust. So that's an interesting story. We do have other stories in the news concerning parents and co-parenting and the success it brings towards children, you know. And it's a very interesting story. But senior, I really rather if Dr. Samoya will be here, I really rather have that treated when she's able to give her input, unless we know she's not going to be with us, because she can add some. She should be here. So I want to leave that article, if with your permission, till she comes, so we can have a very balanced view, a gender balanced view. We don't want the pavilion to say it's two men standing, one standing square leg and one behind the stumps. They mustn't see. Sometimes we men are blind to things, and sometimes that's a blessing, and sometimes that's a curse, depending on how you see it. But definitely, we have an example of co-parenting, a positive, a good example of co-parenting, which we don't often talk about.
Those two stories, good evening, I should say good evening to all our listeners. Those of you who are listening to us in New York and out of Trinidad and Tobago in particular, good evening, because I know you depend on this program, this show, on evenings to sometimes hear what is happening in Trinidad and Tobago in a very critical sense. So good evening, and we welcome you to as part of our listenership on evenings. Yes, this story, these stories in particular, they accent a lot of things. Yeah. They accent a lot of things. In particular, discipline, co-parenting, some of the things students should pay particular attention to in their life's journey in school. And in particular for me, it also said some things that was not said in the article, but some things that to a large extent we should talk about on what young people should be very, very vigilant of in their quest for higher education. So we will talk about that when Seymour is here. But there are a number of other things that maybe we can talk about this evening. One particular article that I paid some attention to is the article where 11 bomb threats in 40 minutes yesterday, and it spanned Trinidad and Tobago, South and Port of Spain and San Grande. And it was interesting. It sung to the police. They said it sung like a serial a situation where someone is trying to make a serial disturbance, because there were bomb threats at about 8 courts, and the Ministry of Local Government and Tobago, some places in Tobago and other places, police station and that kind of thing. And that to me was very, very serious, because bomb threats are not things, even if you want to take it as just a prank, you can't. Because if peradventure something really happens, then people will be held responsible, having not dealt with the threat itself. But one of the things that really concerned me about this particular article was the fact that the fire services were saying that there are no active bomb technicians in the fire services at the moment. Some of them who would have had certification, their certification have expired, and those of other experienced officer in that area would have retired. And that to me is cause for concern, because bomb experts will not only dealing with defusing bombs, because quite frankly, the last time we had bomb situation in Trinidad and Tobago was sometime in the early 2000s. I don't know if you remember that, when somebody was blowing up dustbins
on the promenade
in Spain.
Yeah.
But outside of that, we haven't had any situation where we had any real bomb situation. But they are necessary, because not only they will be required to deal with real bomb situation, but they will also be required to deal with situation where there are fires, and there may be situations where you have hazardous material being detonated and that kind of thing, and they certainly would understand the chemistry and the science of certain things to be able to deal with it. And if you do have those kind of professionals in the fire services, that could be a problem. It's like saying we don't have any forensic scientists to do autopsy, you know, and that kind of
Well, remember those people. Lord, you know, remember those people often are on contract.
well,
And one would wonder why a job like that, I could imagine their workload. Haven't we given scholarships in that era, in that arena?
well, I don't know if I say on contract, the fire services, they have none. They had people, and apparently.
Not talking about forensics, huh?
Oh, forensics.
Yeah. Yeah, we always hearing about who contract expire, who contract can come up yet. We have this way, and I know it's not what you're talking about, where deliberately we like to tinker with human resource
Yes.
because of issues of control.
Control and sometimes finance to some extent. But we haven't gotten it right with human resource and human resource management and trying to be yet, because
Not at all.
we don't deal with it from a strategic level.
No.
And because of that, all kind of politics and all kind of other things get in the way.
Other
And that's
things,
and
you're
that's the
correct.
problem. Yeah.
So it is sad that the fire service is making this confession, but one would hope that those with the power to resolve it can assist. I don't suppose it's only an internal management problem. I would hazard a guess that that's where it starts. It must start within the fire service. They have nobody external. It's not the Minister of National Security who will manage a detail like this. However, we are also aware from the association side that there have been many calls, and this is not just the fire service, it's many of the public services, to fill particular vacancies within the public service.
Yeah.
And for want of a different word, and I don't want to go down the assumption and the making up story way, but one could only hazard a guess it's because of control. These
Well-
people are not people on Mars.
Well, that.
There are different strategies you could get to get these personnel, to recruit these personnel.
I like where this conversation going, but because it have other consequences.
Yes.
Now, listen. One of the things that we know for a fact is the problem is that many of these positions are not necessarily on the establishment of the particular ministries or the particular state-owned enterprises and that kind of thing. And when that happens, then you have other kind of problem. You can't just do a strategic plan and put something in it, and then, of course, retroactively look for for it to be on the establishment. Sometimes cabinet takes a while to be able to do that, but something bigger than that is that a lot of times the government may say from their draft estimates and that kind of thing, they do have the financing to be able to fund those kind of things. And what I would say to that is that, because I have my little stint in public service also, and what I would say to that is that we have a lot of two things in the public service, in government, state-owned and that kind of thing. Two things. We have a lot of square pegs in round hole, and we have a lot of redundancy. You have a lot of people who join reasonable, good income, but you're just doubling up, or you're just redundant. You're doing things what somebody else could do. You're doing things that are unnecessary. And maybe we could revise that in every case to get the right people and the right service with efficiency and spending less money. But then again, we will have problems with trade unions. We'll have problems with we'll have all kind of problems. So we had to find a way to deal with that. And what we would need to do to deal with that is real experts in human resource management, real experts in strategic management, because one of the things that is sadly lacking in all those state-owned enterprises, people with that kind of quality of knowledge of understanding of how to deal with these kind of issues. You know, so that's dealing with that problem 101 to me.
Well, I'm glad you went there, and it will take us into. We will find our way into the article that we will want to treat with today. But let me take you up on that point you made. No, you can't have it both ways. Unless you're very truthful and pragmatic. And I do understand that there are limits to that sometimes, even in the management of human resource. I tell you what, I was in a conversation with the intelligentsia, let me put it that way. And we were having this discussion about trade unions and trade unionism in the view, referring to the article published in the Express about the Prime Minister allegedly shutting the door to the Steelworkers Union in relation to the new plant. Now, I have to say, allegedly, the article is not before me, but that was published. You know? And many of the seniors on the chat, not all, some of them, had very negative views of trade unionism and discouraging, meaning they thought they were bad for business. And that is alarming to me. They thought that they were obstructionists. They thought they were unproductive. They were anti-development.
I sometimes think so.
Counterproductive. And I definitely had to admit, as my good friend says a lot of the time, my good friend and I'm maybe going to share with him the invite for this program, at least this morning. And that has to do with our view of trade unions and what they have become in today's society. And I say that, and by saying that, let me stop here and commemorate the works of Mr. Cecil Paul, who died recently. A gentleman who I met only in flirting in the trade union movement, trying to seek proper knowledge, because you could get pigeonholed even in trade unionism. Somebody will call you and tell you how the story go, and you end up disliking people they don't even know, because you have not critically analyzed the information.
Correct.
And Mr. Paul was very humble. I met him in his the prime of his age, but he didn't haste, and he spared the time to teach, to sit down and explain. And in giving some of those explanations, I always try and I always challenge people to be balanced. So I would say this. Yes, my good friend, and I will quote him here, believes that the trade union movement today has been hijacked by petty businessmen parading, petty bourgeois parading as workers' representatives.
Correct.
That you can't
I would agree with
deny.
Yeah.
Some of them have the same aspirations as the employer. And in some cases, you and I know, they are worse than the employer.
In fact, you see them in court,
Because they end up in St. Vincent Street.
yeah.
They end up in St. Vincent Street. After you preach what you should do to the employer, you do the same thing to your employees. and your members, how many of them have settled wage negotiations? How many of them
Or willing to do so.
have settled collective agreements but are cast in stone in the leadership? How many of them win elections by all means and any means? Do stop quarreling with the PNM and the UNC here. We dealing with our business. How many of them rig their own elections? But it's easy to quarrel with the PNM and the UNC, but the little church group you in, you rig the election too. the little pan side you in, you rig the election too. You know, it's easy for us to point fingers, huh? But when we do have the opportunity, we do the same thing. Right? You see, you could see Dr. Rowley externally or Miss Bassad, Princess of the Prime Minister, externally. But in you, there's a little Rowley.
No, what? When we consider what you just said there,
Yeah.
and you know this conversation spiraling,
PTA.
This conversation spiraling into a lot of things. But I wouldn't forget where we started.
Yeah.
But really, the unions in Trinidad and Tobago sometimes, I would say they're between a rock and a hard place.
Yes.
And you would say that for people like Felicia Thomas and these kind of people. But
Yes.
I would say also, and just to qualify what you said about union leaders masquerading, petty bourgeois masquerading as union leaders. And that sentiment expressed by your friends in the chat that said that having no confidence in trade unions and then they are obstructionists and that kind of thing. Everything that I've said there, or you all have said, there are some evidence to back that up. And I remember when I was studying a couple of years ago, about 15 years ago, I was in Supriani doing a labor studies class. And my lecturer was a gentleman by the name of Dr. Roy Thomas. I don't know if you remember Dr. Roy Thomas.
Yes.
And I told him, you know, I had a little concern, you know. To me, I always hear trade unions making noise about more pay and more better wage conditions and better conditions. And I was saying to him, that's all I hear from trade unions. But you don't hear them talk about productivity. You don't hear them because, I mean, I was a student of economics also. And to me, that is productivity. Good productivity will equal good income and good everything to be able to have better wages, conditions, and that kind of thing. And he said, Matheson, listen, let me tell you this. Trade unions, that's not really the role of trade unions. Trade unions will do what trade unions have to do. The employer and the government must do what they have to do. And the challenge we have in Trinidad and Tobago, especially when we talk about trade unions and their relationship with government and that kind of thing, is that we have poor negotiation. We have infantile understanding of wage negotiation and why we should do certain things and what we should negotiate. And I'm one of the proponents who says that I will always bargain for pay for performance, because those who say otherwise is to say that we prefer that the country remain in a state where you have less productivity and you have high wage bills, right? So at the end of the day, you have to find trade unions and employers and government have to be able to strike a balance to bring about the best negotiation or the best position for the survival of the people, for productivity, and for the happiness of workers. And industrial peace.
And I think where we stand professionally, we see the merits and the demerits of both sides. It is not without fault. Neither side, the employer nor the union. Sometimes obstructionism is deliberate. But sometimes what it is foresight. But if you do not understand, as in my opinion, and you would correct me, most employers do not understand or care for industrial relations.
Correct. They don't understand it. They don't
So
understand it.
if that is and we're talking about serious unions, and if that is the union trade in stock, you will either be wise to match it, but at any extent get involved, because it affects your workers.
And and that's the next dimension of the whole thing. When you say that most employers prefer not to have to deal with trade unions, you're talking about the unitary perspective of trade unionism, right? Of the unitary perspective of the economics of the workplace. That is, some employers would prefer, or the other side of that is that some employers will prefer to make their employees so happy that there will be no need for trade unionism in the workplace. But that is, the opposite is true. So they don't want trade unions, but they're not doing anything to better the workers, the workers in their workplace standards. And that is therein lies the problem, which is why trade unions will always be trade unions doing the same thing they do all the time, right? If, however, trade unions understand their position in the workplace and employers understand the need for trade unions, because listen, an employer will say 100 workers. Nightmare is for one trade union to get in, start advocating outside of a collective bargaining process for a worker or workers, and then all these workers start getting bright in the workplace and going to different trade unions and coming and attacking you, and you're losing in court because you're doing the wrong thing. That is a nightmare. So what I'm saying is the better thing all the time is to include the trade union. Maybe have a collective agreement, have a bargaining unit or bargaining unit.
That'll be cheaper.
That'll be cheaper, and that'll be the ideal position.
Yes.
But they don't understand that.
No.
So they're always afraid of trade unions.
And unlike Barbados, which by culture and otherwise, demographic wise, you will understand and appreciate why tripartism works in that society.
Correct.
This economy is built on ego and power, and not sharing on those type of concepts. We have a high imbalance when it comes to business and density. So when you negotiate from that perspective, when you enter industrial relations and workplace relationships with a power philosophy, you're bound for obstacles.
Exactly, because see, everything has management prerogative, and when you do that, you disenfranchise to a large extent workers and trade unionism and that kind of thing.
And then you bounce up Watson Duke.
Yeah, you bounce in your head.
You bounce up a Watson Duke who is maybe of the same persuasion.
Yes.
Just on the opposite side. So what?
But he understands.
But he understands
how to destroy you.
Correct. And he understands the equation, the simple Marxist equations. Capital plus labor is equal to profits.
Of course.
You did, and I said to my friends in the chat, you took all the risk. Business people take all the risk.
Yeah.
Lord knows sometimes they mortgage their family, the house and the car, we must abandon this idea that everybody doing business selling drugs.
Well, I want to correct it there. They don't necessarily take all the risks, because unless your business is about robots, the people in the organization is their human capital too.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about to start the business, to start up, to employ.
Okay.
How am I getting into business? How do I get to employ you? Good? I need a startup, I need capital, I need machinery, and that is my prerogative. So it's a difference when you come to work for me and I don't have nothing in terms of for you to perform your duties. But the actual business startup, the actual capital investment is the businessman own. And sometimes it is, even though you have the doctrine of separate legal identities, it's really tied to him.
Yeah.
It is tied to him, and it's tied to some fortune or some loan or some kind of a thing, you know.
Correct.
You hear that from Mr. Warner, you hear that from other businessmen talk about when you starting to pay their car installment, your car installment is $3,000, $4,000 a month. Their wage bill is nearly $100,000. They have to find that money. Whether the company make it or not, you have an obligation to your employees.
You have to get that as clockwork.
You have to find it. You can't tell them this month it was bad. Good? They expect. And that is a burden that they have. And I tell all employees and workers, you have to respect that. You know, you got to show up and go home. Somebody break in here last night, you got to yawn. Some building set a fire. You rejoicing, no work today. We're going to work tomorrow.
Somebody make a bomb scare.
Correct.
You get to be outside, productivity stuff.
Correct. I mean, this is not a prime example, but you know what I went to do today, this afternoon. So I was passing by a particular ministry, and I was watching the time 3 o'clock. I was asking myself, where everybody going? I see people watching each other. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. I mean, you don't know there have been flexi arrangements. They could have been different arrangements. But the mass of people that was exiting.
Break traffic and all.
Good. I said, wow, what a luxury. So we do have to understand both sides. However, as you said, the trade union and workers, any representative has their particular objective. And that objective sometimes or most times will intersect with that of the employer, but it will not always run parallel. And you have to respect that. And sometimes it's not a wrong and right. What we see as standoff on TV and showmanism and all that kind of a thing, that has nothing to do with it. There's real work to be done. There are real books to read, there are pages to read, there are collective agreements to go through. There are wage negotiations to propose, you know, there are figures.
Compensation.
Correct. There's real work behind all this. The more we are together, that we see on TV.
And most of them people who here making noise, they and the experts. Technocrats in the background doing that.
No, they go home and sleep and they knock glass and they pour a drink because it was a good match. You got it? But somebody's up in the night trying to work out the different wage offerings and the incremental points and the graphs
on both sides. So there's serious work behind this. People will see the march and the wagon and the everything is roti and music, but that is not collective bargaining, and that is not all to trade unionism at all. That is just the show, and there's serious work in it. But I tell you this, then I will segue into the article and we'll get into the pavilion. And I hope my friends on the chat, I posted the link on the chat, was listening. And he was talking about obstructionism. So as you know, I did have some experience in the tutor at a particular level, especially in the Industrial Relations Committee. And in brief, once we were before the CPO, and we were dealing with a particular memorandum and wanted to get it renewed. Now, basically what the memorandum said is that teachers without a DPED cannot move beyond the second incremental point when you get your increments, right? It's called principle number 9, right? The union signed off on that. The union and the employer signed off on that. However, what was happening is that there were waivers just being renewed every so often that said we will not implement that. To become custom and practice.
Well, this particular year, the CPO said he's not renewing it. And his argument was I keep renewing this, but remember I have a compensation responsibility to the state. I am not seeing teachers going and pursue this. And I am not sure from the last check I have that a lot more teachers have this diploma. And remember, we use this diploma in the salary negotiations to give an increase in salary in a particular grade when we consider the qualification. So we said that these teachers in these grades have a degree plus a DPED. And that was the argument for more compensation. We used the waiver so that people could catch up. But I'm not seeing that manifest. And I keep renewing this, and I not go and renew this anymore. I doing this for years now. So then the union countered and said, well, we did this in good faith. We did this in good faith, sir. We didn't do this fraudulently. We were around the table, and we were making proposals, and we did this in good faith. He countered again and said, you knew many teachers didn't have access to the DPED. You knew and signing in many areas the DPED did not exist. Why did you sign? Maybe you should not have signed. At that time, I nearly fall in a chair, because I was now understanding the argument. And it is the same argument with SBA and some other things. I don't want to get into the specifics, the body pavilion. But the point being is that the union had a responsibility to their members to do the right thing. But for some apparent reason, they didn't do it. And years after, it came back to bite them. Now, if you stopped at the table and said no, you'd have been declared an obstructionist. But if you understand industrial relations and human resource management and what are these sometimes agreements will do coming down the road, you have to say no.
Correct.
You have to say no because it is your responsibility. Now, if you're going there and thinking about yourself and coming out and looking good and we shake hands and we're taking photos, that's another thing. So the Communication Workers Union General Secretary, Joanne Auger, said to workers yesterday as the union's dispute with the telecommunications services of Trinidad and Tobago intensified over stalled negotiations, outstanding grievances and concerns about the company's management. Speaking at a news conference at the union's headquarters in Port of Spain, Auger said the workers were seeking what was owed to them and accused the Public Utilities Minister of failing to properly address their concerns. I am telling you all, brace for problem, because this is what the politicians good at. She stressed that the union was not aligned with any political party. We are not politically assigned or attached. We have no loyalty to any political party, PNM nor UNC, and because we are not in the coalition of interests, we expect to suffer. Auger emphasized the need for fairness, pointing to PSA President Felicia Thomas, who met with Mr. Parat over the union's WASA negotiation this week. He had intervened in the impasse, assuring that government will honor their commitment. I don't want to hug up. All I want is to be fair. However, Auger maintained that the union had met with TSCT, and this is the interesting part. If this is true, the union had met with TSTT management and discussed the company's financial position. I think that is responsible. She said the union was asked to give the company time and the negotiations would resume. I didn't negotiate with Casper. TSCT Vice President Corporate Services, Roshan Babwa, has all the answers, and I dare you to say that the Communication Workers Union lying on you. The CUW is calling for an investigation into statements it attributes to Babwa, which Auger said created what she described as legitimate expectation on the part of the union. Auger said that the union had met with the company twice and examined the figures presented by management. She said, A meeting was held on July the 9th with 6 union representatives in attendance. And do you know what we did? We crunched the numbers. According to the General Secretary, the discussions were not simply about securing a wage increase, but ensuring that any agreement would be financially sustainable. I find that makes sense too. She said the union had sought to ensure that the cost did not exceed 60 million, which she said was the figure the company indicated that it could afford. It was at that juncture that the company and the union sat down. She said they sat down, not just to give workers money, but to ensure that when workers get money, that they worked so hard for it, it doesn't break the company. So we crunched the numbers to make sure that it didn't go over 60 million, which is the figure that the company said it was able to pay. OSHA questioned how the union's discussion could now be treated as having no basis. Now, if you sit down with the employer, you crunch the figures.
It's strange that this union leader is saying what she is saying.
Yeah.
When their former leader, her predecessor,
Yeah.
is a minister in government right now.
Yeah.
Right? And he would have gotten there on the backs of the trade union movement. I'm just saying.
No, you're right. And I await his comments because he would have intimate knowledge.
Yeah, that's my personal friend, but
he would have intimate knowledge of this. It is either this is a fallacy or not.
Yeah.
Because if you sit down with the employer, you say, boss, what you could afford, and all you come up with what you could afford. Mm-hmm. You didn't tell him pay tomorrow. But this is what you could afford. This is how we come up with it and we work out it. Next thing you're hearing, who, me?
He said you didn't negotiate with Casper.
Come on. Come on. Oh my God, come on. I don't understand these things. And the trade union, and as we were discussing before, has a responsibility or had a responsibility to capture these things in writing.
No, listen, let me tell you something. The trade union movement, even with like them, they are between a rock and a hard place. I wait to see how this is going to play out all over in probably the next few months. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going for a break shortly. And certainly, we will entertain you, the pavilion, when we come back, because we have a lot.
Yes, and we want you all to chime in on this trade union government relationship. Do you see trade unions today as obstructions?
And take all the politics from it.
And sellouts.
Yeah, take all the politics from it.
Yeah, because to be honest, anybody call, we'll tell them they just march with any party, and that is the truth. Don't watch people watch the coalition of interest because they don't have memories.
Yeah.
But I remember when it was the red they were hugging up with.
Correct.
Good, and they hug up tight, They did hug up tight. So you always find these relationships going on. Are they obstructionists? Are they becoming obsolete? Are they part of the problem? Too political? Your views.
You've got bills to pay, and so do we. Let's go pay some bills on the street 919 FM.
Peace of God be multiplied unto you in the precious name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. This is Redemption Hour, a gospel program where God will reveal His mind to you on how to live a fulfilled life and to please Him in all areas. Join Pastor Femi Afolabi, the National Overseer of Deeper Christian Life Ministry, Trinidad and Tobago, and other seasoned ministers for a time of divine encounter as they minister and pray for you every Saturday by 9 o'clock in the morning of this station, Street FM 91.9. Our church is Deeper Life Bible Church, number 1 Cochrane Street, opposite Tunapuna Police Station, Tunapuna. The times of our services are as follows: Sunday worship service, 9 a.m., Monday Bible study, 6 p.m. Thursday revival hour 6 p.m. The redemption hour is a life-changing moment you cannot afford to miss. For special prayer or counseling, contact Pastor Femi Afolabi on 778-9933. God bless you as you listen to this program. Jesus is Lord.
KFC onion rings, bring the sauce, Come to the crunch like a boss, Add a ring, show me onion ring, in your ring, ding. Show me your onion ring, is a ring, ding. Yes, it's a brand new thing called onion ring. Level up your order. Onion ring, chicken sandwich full of flavor. Add a ring to your twister. Somebody better go and tell the neighbor.
Show off your ring at KFC with the new onion ring chicken sandwich for $34.95, or get a regular side of rings for just $15.
Add a ring, in your ring, ding. Add a ring, KFC onion ring.
KFC, show me your ring.
TechFlex TT Limited, the #1 computer store in Trinidad and Tobago, has all your tech needs. We have the latest computers, powerful MacBooks, and affordable Chromebooks for school and work, providing new and refurbished options to suit everyone's budget. Also, we carry a variety of printer options and ink solutions for your home and office needs. Need repairs done? Our experienced technicians can solve your tech problems. Visit us now at any of our 2 locations, Wilson Road, Scarborough, next to Royal Castle, or Penco Street, Montrose, Chagonas. Call 235-4919 for more info. TechFlex TT Limited. Affordable tech. Exceptional service.
Blessings in the wonderful name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. You are invited to listen to the Final Hour broadcast heard every Monday
from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. in the morning on the Street 919 FM.
Hear my mom, Pastor Helen Garcia, and myself, Pastor Valentine Garcia Jr., preach the Word of God to the elderly, youth, and children. We can be contacted at 629-0113 or 623-8444. The church is located at 26 Prince Street in Port of Spain. We look forward to you joining us. God bless you.
As my life I lay it on the altar, as my life.
It's KFC in the cricket. Crunch up that crunch, crunch up that crunch, crunch up that crunch. Doing it the KFC way. Crunch up that crunch, crunch up that crunch, crunch up that crunch. TKR all the way. Passion inside the way. Bringing the energy. It's chicken for all the way. KFC got way. When we come out to play, nothing can bother way. Winning is part away. TKR all the way. Grab your maximum crunch bucket today with 6 pieces of chicken, 1 regular popcorn chicken, 4 regular sides for only $144.95. Crunch after crunch with KFC.
Share the live. Share the live. The Street 919 FM on Facebook and Instagram. Share the live. Iowa George on Instagram. Share the live. Iowa TV and Street TV on YouTube. Share the live. The Street 919 FM.
And we're back. We're back on the Third Empire. And we were talking before the break about, given the example of this CW issue, how do we assess trade unions in Trinidad and Tobago in 2026? How do you assess them? Do you see them as an unnecessary evil? Do you see them as totally political? Do you have an issue with them being political? And as I'm saying to you, if you understand trade union history,
of course, do you see them as a stakeholder in the whole process?
Correct.
Of the industrial revolution?
So do you believe that they should be involved, but that doesn't mean you're being partisan? Good afternoon, Paul.
Good afternoon, Marcus and Ronaldo. I know all against some weathers these days and all. All are coming in and out. I know the cricket is going on. CPL, so they have Real Master Empire, man. I see the Jamaican come back and 2-2. So we have to watch them now. We're looking like we're deadly. We'll go with the crowd. Because they have a big hit today, a big Jamaica. But we don't really cricket now. We're dealing with the unions, you know.
Yeah.
I watch them as political parasites and hustlers and riding and workers back. Because I find them union them, all of them come together as one cause and fight for the workers' rights. Don't line with no political party to get used and abused and promises. They're not seeking the workers' interest, they're seeking them interest. They want to ride Rolls Royce and eat lamb, steak. Because one colleague crying out, that I like young lady, I like ladies when they're fighting for the right thing. Like Philippa Thomas, she was fighting for the right thing. She went in the back room, she spit down, she gets her hand with, but 10% was on the board. All the vote for me, I go make sure and sign that and the dotted line for the workers, and then right now there's a problem now. So the next union now came out and saying, they signed the dotted line for the 10%, and the man who in charge, Barry, saying they never in charge for it. And this man they call Rosham Parasham. I know that guy personally, you know. He is a kind of different kind of human being. You get a play and WhatsApp board now. You are play on WhatsApp board, now you're on TSTT board. You see what's going on in the politics? Friending, better friending, feeding the friends and family. So Barry and Roshan Prasram don't tell the young lady not to protest for the rights. And all them union leaders them with the government and tight tells the government, come out and sign for your colleagues on them. Not for all, you know, for the workers who are the bottom of the ladder, who sign this to get 10%, sign this to get back pay. Then they get a judge due because the politician getting money. As the money coming, the money they collect already, then can buy skyscraper, then can buy plane, they can do all kind of things. And people living on 10, 13, 20, 15 salary right now. So young lady, watch them snakes and rats and then I meet her food. I hope Christian Thomas, guess she think what she work out on them. Man. Marcusson, I'll go on best.
Okay, TSCT Corporation, TSCT Corporate Communication Vice President is Roshan Babwa.
Good afternoon, caller.
Good afternoon, gentlemen, and good afternoon to your listeners. You know, as it relates to the unions that are in this country, most of them really do not have a vision that is of benefit or significant benefit to their members or financial contributors. You see, unions are in a position where by now they should have been owning gas stations, probably groceries, things that their members could benefit from, and because it's a continued something that they will be continuously using. So they're using their own money, right, to establish something, and the more that they participate in it is the more that they share or whatever will become at the end of the day. And it is open for other persons in the country who may not be a member of your union, but they could come and buy your gas and shop in your grocery or whatever investment that you might have. Because when I hear the government is offering cash and non-cash, I find that is something that they can capitalize on, because everybody getting cash, is not everybody going to use the money in a prudent manner. So if you're able to, at least, if it's not all the cash, but a portion of everybody cash come together collectively, just as how they pay dues that benefit the union leaders, you come together collectively and they invest in something that will continuously bring them some sort of income at the end of the day, right? Because it's how much years all these unions in place now. Are they just interested in having a building or what have you for the union purposes? Or they looking for genuine and long-term benefits for their members? But again, you see, the lack of knowledge is what continues to make the wise live of the foolish. Sorry, and I don't know what again to say to ask the people in this country to really use what is between the two ears and just think, free yourself from certain things and wake up. Thanks for allowing me, gentlemen.
Thank you. We will not let me take this call. Good afternoon, caller.
Well, yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Relux and Mr. Matheson. Well, I don't want to distance trade unions from the politics. They have been involved in the politics from time immemorial.
Yes.
And in fact, the politicians, as a matter of fact, most of them grew out of trade. In fact, the trade unions, right? They grew out. But the politicians, they grew out of trade unions, and we see it with Butler and all these people. We see it with Basdeo Pandey and all those people. They came out of, and most of them they came out of. So I don't want to distance the trade unions, and from time immemorial again, they have been aligned to political parties. You had Elmo Gopal, he was General Secretary of the PNM. You had Carlton, you had all those people. So I don't think that we see them as angels and people free from political influence. That is not so. That wouldn't be true to say. That is not a truism. So people try to say that they're independent and all that kind of. I was in Trinidad here in the first 5 years of the last regime, and I think the trade unions had some meeting in Independence Square. And because I remember this Watson Duke and those people were very harsh on the government of the day. And a trade union, one in Port of Spain, the leader cried because the way they attacked his party. So I am not going to say they all with me, and that's the fact. And they get their favors. Some of them when they leave, they get certain positions. Some of them, because again, the way judges are appointed to the industrial court through the cabinet, political again. Some of them end up in the industrial court. All kind of thing takes place with these trade unions. But coming back to the reality in terms of what is happening now with respect to the CWU and the telecommunication people, well, somebody must have acted in bad faith. Because if you sat down and you crunch the numbers and whatnot, and you agree, and then you saying that there may be, I'm not saying there may be some dishonesty there. So I have to look at the thing totally in terms of for what it is and treat it for what it is. And sometimes you appoint people to boards, you appoint CEO and all that, but you have to look at their competence. You see, when you're not careful in terms of who you appoint to positions and whatnot, you always end up in this mess. I'm not saying that the person is incompetent, but I'm saying that sometimes what has occurred is likely to occur when you don't have competent people. And this is something that we have to look at. And if you have people who are not competent or probably competent with respect to the industrial relations, and you say labor laws and all that kind of thing. You get advisors for them. You get people, the expert, to help them along the way, to advise them. So I hope, and I'm seeing this thing developing, not just in the telecommunication body, but in other areas. Get people in 2026. If people don't have the skill, get people with the skill to help those people, to advise those people, so you don't inflate. And I read, I think it's this lady Indira Rampasad, and she said, and I agree with her, that you cannot allow to have prolonged, right, dispute or dissatisfaction with trade unions and all that is not helpful, because those people on the other side of the politics, they are opportunistic, and all they're waiting for is to ride the backs of those people to create problems for you, protest and all that kind of all over Port of Spain. So it's something you have to deal with carefully as a government, and ensure that you have the right people for the right job. But I don't want to go further, but I'm saying that you need to deal with these matters and ensure you have job fit, the people who are fit, and not land you and your government in serious problems down the road, because you have the opportunists who are there and they're ready to pounce. And I just want to make that point. That I always like to illustrate the whole thing. You had these people who, the maxi taxi. From the time the maxi taxi come out there, the opposition jump on that bandwagon, and they all over Port of Spain. You had the lady who was marching in Port of Spain, but I don't hear her again. I'm not saying that protest was not genuine or warranted, but you have the opposition that body that is opportunistic, and you have to be careful. So I may not have dealt with probably to your satisfaction, but those are just the matters that I want to raise with respect to the trade unions in Trinidad here. Thank you again.
Yeah. We don't have any issue. We don't have any issue.
My position is that this program today is not necessarily to say either way that trade union is bad or good.
Yeah.
We are simply examining the nature of the position of trade unions, with the nature of what they do, how they represent workers, and to a large extent the benefit workers and the country get from it.
Correct. Good afternoon, caller.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Because benefit nothing from Jan for over the years, but increase a 5%, 3%, maternity leave, extra holiday, them kind of thing. But to improve the institution that they are in, to help me, the person that the taxpayers that they are supposed to attend to, and improve the service, that don't happen. Because you all, and I was wondering where you all was 10 years ago. Because teachers, I keep saying, teachers keep asking for an increase in salary. I would give you an increase in salary, but you need to show me an improvement in your production. So let me draw one example. You all pointed it out, One of you all pointed out that here we're going on. We sit down to have a negotiation with the union. The state tell the teachers, here we're going on, go and get your master's or wherever it is. So right now you're at grade 3, and if they increase your salary, from a grade 3 to get $15 more, you have to go and get your master's A, and then you'll get your 15%. So you have $100, you expect at least $60 to go to benefit from that $15 more. This year, I said, all right, the union, how much you sending? 8. Next year, please go when I look, they only send 3. The following year, they send 2. But here what they're telling me, hold back that now. We go, that thing that we sign on to, when we think you go handle it too. And I keep putting it off, and still getting people their money. And when I look at it, I ain't seeing no improvement. You just outlined it there. The disingenuous of the union. Let me point one out to you. When the refinery was closing down, Prime Minister at the time telling me I was going on, they take shares in Paria. And the union tell them no. Today, these same people would have been benefiting off of the shares of Paria. And if you look sharp, I can tell you, take it, the money that you have there, if all you want to put all together, we could have go back and start back the refinery with the help of the union and wherever union the money have. And wherever investment all you have here, I go use all your shares in Paria to finance the money to start back the refinery. And no vision. Here what the Prime Minister tell the Steel Workers Association a few days ago. Or they don't make no noise about employment, you know. Because they sit down there for 10 years or how much years and no, all they look for investor to invest. Embarrass them, and they still didn't see that yet, and they still fighting. And everybody tell them, oh, company close up and go on with your money. And how that happen? And then you know they turn around and blame the state. But because of the level of productivity, the company realized this is making no sense. I keep paying and increasing salary. The only person I ain't see, and I heard that was happening, TSTT made a profit. Because I don't know where Uncle was going. Yes, unions came out of, and here we're going, the PNM didn't come out of labor. Eh? Only party came out of, or the starting of a party that came out of labor, besides, not NJAC. This, what the next one name? And this present administration, Pandey, came from union and created a political party. But if it wasn't for Butler, who started what he started to bring what was the next gentleman named Satmaraj's father-in-law? But it's Sagat Maraj or whatever his name was. If it wasn't for them fellas, even no Pandey, if it wasn't for Butler that decide what was going on to the oil field workers and decide to pull Caroni workers together. And that time Caroni wasn't a state-owned institution, and that was the kind of thing we just forget to know. All these people wasn't fighting against the how to put it, they were fighting more or less against colonialism at the time, that's all. So there's a difference between now the state, now this is supposed to benefit, we fight against colonialism to benefit ourselves, and now that we have it, and like we don't know what to do with it. Because I have a Minister of Finance tell me our government deficit last year is 3 billion. And when we tell him it's going to be 9, he said no. Right now it's going to 9. Eh? That's it. And it was so good. They bluffed we last year, get into office and before time for school to open. And everybody praised them. Eh? When the reality hit now this time, when the crunch really hit, you realize everyone, we ain't had our money to do all that junja they do last year about school. We're behind in school. I can't even pay the people and them that are hired to go on the highway. And you're telling me, hold on until 20. And you know what they're telling me? We inherited. Dr. Rowley, all you could have didn't like how he said it. He might have sung disrespectful to all you, but he was telling all you all the time. This is the position that we're going. But instead of all you listen to that, or they say he was arrogant and he was rude and he was this and he was that. And the same people telling you the same thing he said to us 2 years ago is the same thing they're saying to us now. What's different, Master Matterson, to the gentleman? Now we ain't tight no belt again, you know. Now we hanging from a rope around we neck. But certain people benefiting, you know. Because I went down to Cuba sometime and see a man with a truck and a pressure washer, and he pressure washing the Cuba flyover. And I pass by Twin Tower and I see they pressure wash the wall by the Vincentian Port. They do that early. They go back around the financial towers. So, and you realize now, the issue that I told you about against the AI data center and the man who was supposed to take over Amplia, hear what they tell you, your parent tell me, that we don't know about that, that come from management. The board had nothing to do with that. The management take up that whole thing on themselves. So why you call for the board of the management to fire? Why you call for the management to step down? Or call out the person who they say, because the AI data center say we don't know that, you know, pull out themselves all on a sudden. And because it was too outlined, it was too blatant for anybody to see and figure out what was going on here. So now I have a lady telling you, the same lady telling the former minister, don't say nothing, Mr. Former Minister. And again, if you watch all what Marvin Gonzalez, I hear a man make a statement. The next 10 thing that Parrot going and open to give people water, look and see these 10 things wasn't started by Marvin Gonzalez. But you know what? He was in the parliament to boast. How much? 500 or 5,000 people I put into WASA. That's why everybody stand up outside and praise him like a queen, I mean a king. The union and all of them stand up outside like subjects. The king has arrived. All of them turned back now, they were in darkers. Enjoy the evening.
Thank you, Kolo.
Thank you, Kolo. You know, I always like to reference the Barbados system, and it is still working. It may not be working in the way it was set up to work before, but it is still working because you see that amalgamation between government. You hear me or Motley, you remember recently she would have said something to the Businessmen Association and Massey, right? It allows for you to do that if you have that tripartite system working for you anyway.
And she said it directly. Yeah?
Yes.
She didn't mince words about it.
Yes. What we have here is we have a kind of wannabe system. Sometimes we used to have a national
a committee
for productivity and labor and all that.
Everybody from our committee resigned.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if we understand the importance of these things for industrial peace, one, and for happiness around the people and productivity and everything. These things are important, and for some reason we just paid lip service, but you don't have to go far to look at what's happening in the Caribbean.
No.
Right? So at the end of the day, what is important is for us to understand more than anything else. Industrial peace is important, productivity is important, and whatever configuration whatever configuration we end up with using, it must redound to that industrial peace, productivity, happiness, in the society, fairness and equity. And to get that, you have to have an amalgamation between union, business, and government.
Yeah, and it's funny we don't see the people as having the same objective. Because they do. Mm-hmm. The union will have no interest in the business going bust. Mm-hmm. That'll be bad for everyone.
Correct.
Good afternoon, caller.
How are you doing, bro?
We're good. How are you?
Yeah, really quiet. I listen to the discussion.
Yeah.
Tell me something. I maybe forget, or all the fellas more knowledgeable. When last, during an election campaign in this country, there are union leader stand up and support a political party openly on the platform during a general election? Only help me.
When last? You had plenty of that you had plenty of that this last political election. I remember the EPA. You remember the EPA? EPA all over the country supporting the government and saying...
No, hold on. You missed the question.
Okay, go ahead.
When last did a union leader stood up on a platform with a political party and support them?
But I just said, last elections.
Like Felicia Thomas?
Yeah, no, not just
when that happened?
Not just Felicia Thomas.
No, hold on. Everybody saw what Felicia Thomas did. She main agenda after she win the election.
No, but you asked a question and we answered you. It wasn't just Felicia Thomas. It was a number of them.
They was on platform of political people.
Yes, I remember that quite clearly.
Meaning the coalition of interests, like Mr. Rouge, for example, JTUM, and I think that's the example Mr. Matheson is giving. In the election campaign, they were on the campaign trails. They actually spoke at some of the forums.
Yes.
You mean in support of the opposition at the time?
No, I'm talking about in this particular election. They were on the UNC platforms.
Well, this is the point I am making.
Yeah.
But you asked, that is the question you asked.
Yeah, asked when last we saw it. We saw political people support. That's why you said that.
With respect to the combined unions.
Yes.
Okay, so. But another thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
When Jennifer Baptiste and Pandey and them was end up in politics, right?
Yeah.
Would they still align to the union?
Actively, I don't know that she was a sitting president.
No. All right, go ahead.
Yeah.
Jennifer lost the election.
She had lost the internal election. Yes.
And then she aligned herself with the PNM.
Yeah, and the Mr. McLeod.
No, Mr. McLeod was different.
Yeah.
Because I think he was abducted into the party while he was
still. Yeah.
No, he had resigned recently.
He had resigned as well.
Yeah.
This is what I'm saying.
Yes.
No.
Because you remember
the Thomas case.
When he resigned, he got colon handshake.
Yes. Yes, caller, go ahead.
So my point I'm making
is
that when Jennifer and they get into politics, there was no longer no leader in the unions, neither Pandey.
Right.
But Miss Felicia,
Pandey party was always a Labour party. I don't know if you remember.
Oh gosh, listen to me. Listen my question. Miss Thomas is the president of PSA.
Yes.
She stood up on our platform and support the UNC.
Yes.
Her first order of business after she won the election was to get rid of the former regime. It comes from your own mouth. You agree with me?
Yeah, she said that. I remember that. Yeah.
I am saying to you, Jennifer Baptiste, and then when they move over to the PNM, she wasn't in that same PSA. She had moved on. So did Mr. Pandey. And you know that?
Yeah.
Right? So, I listened to Miss Felicia Thomas. And I wish you well. I listened to Mr. Pararat. And up to this point in time, I didn't hear Mr. Pararat say that the Wassa workers is going to get 10%. You hear him say that?
They're going to get what?
He spoke. He never said they're going to get 10%. You check back the clip. All the fellas have the wherewithal to check them things. Okay? He made his presence felt, came in there to arouse him and come. And what he said, he never tell them they're going to get 10%. We're not going to mix up this. Okay? If you can listen back to what Mr. Barad said, and you see, never tell them that. He eased the frustration by your parents and what and what and what and what. So there are people who making it so as though he told them that they're going to get that. That is wrong. In his whole speech, he didn't say that. But I want to stay longer. I go on.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
The number to call is 342-008-14665-391. And we're going to move off this topic pretty soon. But the productivity of the country depends on how we really negotiate this issue. Good afternoon, caller.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
That last caller was so correct. Oh my God, I kept saying it all the time. Jennifer Baptiste, and I heard, I think one of you all said Jennifer Baptiste lost she never lost no internal election in the PSA. She stepped down, which was the right thing to do, and then she went over to the PNM. You can't be serving two masters. Listen, man, you see that president of CWU? If Felicia Thomas was half of that woman, the Wasta workers might have done get the 10%, Mr. O'Gear. That is a president. But when you go and jump in bed with the politicians, you expect them to give you what you're asking for. Look at how Felicia Thomas, she begging. All the UNC wanted her to do was to get public servants to vote UNC. And as she said, promise made, promise kept. They got their votes now, they're balling. Wassa waiting. I know Wassa, all you go wait like Dorothy for that 10%. All you feel, all you go get. Right? Because when you have a leader, you have a union leader who could jump in. Yeah, we know Roger and them. Yeah, I remember until Roger, he and Vincent Cabrera, Camilla Posad Bissessa in the middle, and the both of them at the end, and they walk in Faizabad that year, hand in hand with the Prime Minister. And when you do that, you compromise any negotiation. Miss O'Gear, man, you is a boss. Felicia Thomas, well, I shouldn't say she disappoint me. Because from that night when I saw her went on that UNC platform and hold up Camilla Posad Bissessa had, I said, Jesus Lord. And watch. She can't get nothing because the UNC have she where they want her. So now you come in talking about, and we this, and the thing, and what's our workers thing. Look, I just get so upset, All I could say, thank God. I have to say like how the movie starts to say it. First, I want to thank God, and then I want to thank my father for advising me not to join PSA when I was working. He said, put your money in a bank account. I did it. I got interest at National Commercial Bank. You see what I see in there now? Oh, my God, look. Felicia Thomas, please, take a page out of Miss O'Gear book, right? That is a president. You'll have a blessed evening.
Listen, my position on this, I tend to disagree with some of the callers because to satisfy everybody, you need some kind of power relationship. And this is not unique to Trinidad and Tobago all over. We say this all the time. You have Labour government in Britain, you have Australia, you have all South Africa. This is a normal thing. However, as I would have said just before, we have to find the perfect conflict, the perfect chemistry, the perfect mix to solve the problem. And when we talk about WASA to me is, ant's nest by itself. And every single politician who get into office know this. Anybody who say they don't know that, I'll tell them they're lying. WASA by itself is an answer. If I had my way, if I, Steve Matheson, get my way, I will dismantle WASA. Because we're not really getting what we should be getting from WASA. We can't have water 24/0, surrounded by water, rivers, all kind of thing, dry season water, and people are getting water in the tap, and 1.5 million people. Nah, man, that's craziness. Right? We have a desalination plant. We're paying for that water.
How much people in New York?
Right? We ain't getting it. 12 or 13 million people in New York. Right?
And just get water.
Forget about New York. New York have big rivers and things. Forget about New York. Let's talk about Dubai and Saudi Arabia and all them places. Right? Them have water all the time.
And these
in the desert.
These countries, but New York has snow.
Well, yeah. But the Hudson don't really freeze, you know.
Huh?
The Hudson don't really freeze.
Yeah.
Right? But what I'm saying is, we have a problem. We have a allocation of human resource to be able to get the job done in Trinidad and Tobago. It's bigger than the union. It's bigger than the government. The government could fix that problem. Right?
And this is my point. I agree with you. I do not see the issue being the trade unions themselves.
I don't. I mean,
the boxing ring is a different one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see you having power outside the ring. Outside the ring, you only have talk.
I don't see that.
You have to get in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
How you negotiate that is not a straight line.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the reality for anybody who's been in any type of leadership and representation. You go there and feel you could call the shots. And go there and feel if you don't deal with me, you could call the shots.
You can't.
You can't. You have to, it's the state. You have to deal with me.
Yeah.
Somehow.
This is why I admire the Barbados system.
Yeah.
Everybody respect everybody.
Because it's not about power.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, call.
Hey, thanks for taking my call, guys.
Yes, no problem.
I just want to make a comment about two recent callers who were talking about Ms. Thomas and her behavior with regards to the current government. I just want to remind people, again, people have this lapse of memory. It is commonplace in our culture, in our country, for trade union leaders or members to mount platforms and badmouth the government of the day when they are not getting what they want. They've done it against the PNM, they've done it against the UNC, and as for this business of somehow Ms. Jennifer Baptiste-Primus being more honorable because she physically separated herself from the PSA before she declared her political colors, who is to say that PNM bias wasn't at play when she was at the head of that union? This is something that some of your callers will refuse to address because they're so focused on the fact that Ms. Thomas declared that what the PNM administration was offering was pathetic and outrageous to her workers and her supporters. And she saw something better being offered by another political party, and rightfully, in the grand tradition that exists in this country, she went on a political platform and said, you know what, we are not supporting what PNM offered us. We're going to go here. That doesn't declare political allegiance, it declares common sense, a common sense approach to bargaining in the best interest of your workers. I'm not holding that against her. We seem to forget, and again, the memory thing. We put up with a lot in that 10 years of this PNM administration. People seem to have gone into this fog where, the UNC is so bad, their policies are so terrible, they're bringing the country down. It wasn't so bad after the PNM after all. I don't get that. I don't understand this rhetoric, but it happens every single time. If you go back far enough in history, because of that said, this is a PNM country. Every time a non-PNM government comes into play, after a year, 2 years at most, the country as a whole seems to have this memory collapse about what happened previously to force the PNM from governance. And I continue to be willing to wait and watch and observe what the current administration is doing. We gave the PNM administration 10 years. I think the UNC deserves a little more patience about, yes, some of their judgments and policies might be questionable, and it's all great in a democracy to have people contesting these things and arguing and debating. But let's not throw the pot out with the boiling water. I am prepared to give them time to get their act together. I'm not prepared to forget, like so many citizens who call into this program, apparently, the 10 years under the pandemic, what the population at large, to say nothing of workers, had to endure. I'm not willing to go into that malaise of foggy memory for the sake of convenience. I know my people too well. I'm prepared to wait and watch. It might be that the UNC doesn't deserve a second term, and if so, there's a democratic process to that. But don't judge them too harshly just yet. The same people who are funding this program to bad talk Ms. Summers for doing what she's done, or to bad talk with UNC for the policies they're engaging in, where was they during the last 10 years? Was I hearing them as fervently, as violently, as loudly? I think not. And that right there gives you an answer to a very sensible question. Is your bias showing? Is your petticoat showing people? Be mindful. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin.
That's 6, that's 6.
Good afternoon, caller.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Shalom, Kachadi, to the referee, match referee. I wasn't hearing only what was going on clearly, but I would like to know what is the topic so I could be so guided. All I heard a little bit was a lady commented and say her father told her not to join the PSA. And I see that is the thing with the PSA. Whether you're a member or not, whenever negotiations are settled, you enjoy the same benefits as a member of the PSA. But I must stand up with Ms. Thomas, the PSA leader, because people like me who retired from 2014 coming down the road, but I retired in 17, but from 14 coming down the road, we must stand up behind Ms. Thomas, because what was offered before was just a $4,000 for all the retirees, and that was it. And all retirees have been losing thousands and thousands of dollars, right? So all the retirees, they held straight, they held straight, and we are looking forward to the day when we receive our correct criminal benefits, right? So I do not know where we're going with this thing, but I and many other retirees stand up behind Ms. Thomas, who stood up for us, because it's not easy. I by myself, on my pension alone, I have almost 10 years of outstanding pension payments. That is the pension payment what I should have obtained in 2013, from 2017, which was paid in 2013. So I have from 2017 to today outstanding. That's only one portion of the money I am owed, right? And public servants and retirees, have been diminished or reduced to I don't want to use the word paupers, but it's almost in pecuniary situations, because we cannot cope with the cost of living today. You cannot go in a shop or a grocery and say, hey, I have a badge here, I'm a retired public servant, right? And that is what we are very thankful for. So I hope they say nothing in life come easy, as Stalin say, and I hoping for the best. So let me hear whatever comment I could make in the other topics, because I have the problems here with this whole, and there's a stress on me now with this poor reception from I need to speak, but I'm not giving her the ability to speak because of the poor.
Yeah, we do understand, caller, the connection problem that you're having. It is a technical problem, but basically, I know you're hearing me. You hearing me?
I hear you now. I got a breaking transmission,
yes,
but I hear you now.
I realize. Basically, they were talking about the whole issue of the unions being compromised. It is the union compromised because of their involvement in politics. So some people, and I mean representational politics, some people have the view that once a union involved in politics is a sellout and it can't be good.
Well, these people do not know better. in almost every island in the English-speaking Caribbean, they came about because of a political background. From Grenada, go right up the road, right up to Jamaica. Right, forget Guyana. Guyana didn't have that kind of foundation. As our Trinidad also didn't have that foundation. We didn't start political parties based on trade union roots. So there's a lot of stupidness people speaking. So go ahead now.
Yeah, so some people believe that the union is compromised because of their open involvement in politics. And as a caller just pointed out, whether open or secret, do not for one feel that leaders are targeted by political parties. And some of them are well involved before they unmask themselves. When you see them on the platform, that is after they're 15 years, 10 years, no. Don't ever feel because you don't see them. So the extent to which a group representing workers, especially workers who work for the state, the extent to which any union can be apolitical, really and truly, could be a farce. So we just ask the question, given what is going on today with the CWU and the PSA, if really and truly, trade union involvement in politics is a necessary evil. It is a necessary evil. It could be beneficial. It could work against you, yes, as well, we admit. But it is not something you can absolve yourself. You don't get to be in the middle of the line and say, not me and that.
You see, in the case of the Communication Workers Union, I remember there was this gentleman named Lyle Thompson who was their leader for a number of years. And he was a very controversial leader. Right?
Yes.
And, right? And so you have to understand the communication workers, they have that kind of a militant background based on foundation. But going back to the PSA, always were aligned to the or some alignment with the PNM government at the time, from Dr. William days. They had people like Manswell who were Senate members. Then you have on the port, right? You had Critchlow in Nuge, right? You had, I think, W.W. Sutton from the port workers, right? And even before you had Carltol before Townsend, but yeah. Carltol was more or less aligned to the PNM. Is how they call him. Townsend became militant, right? And as far as I reported, he wasn't a supporter really of the or aligned to the PNM, that trade union leader. But he's a very militant man. Yeah. Then you had George Wiki OWTU, who also wasn't quite militant. And of course, you had Mr. Pandey, who came up with his All Trinidad and Factory General Workers Trade Union. But the thing is, you always had unions aligned to political parties. You had in San Fernando Corporation, Mr. Owen Hines, from the Contractors and General Workers Trade Union. You had the union in Port of Spain, Amalgamated Workers Trade Union, who was also aligned, or more or less aligned, to the PNM at the time. Okay? Because what was said is that Dr. William had assigned, all right, he gave Mr. Hines the Communication Workers Trade Union, well, you hold that. He gave Critchlow Nuge, you hold that. And then he gave the gentleman in Port of Spain, long before this man who they are now, long before Prentice. I can't remember a gentleman named in Port of Spain, the Amalgamated Workers Trade Union. So trade unions were always aligned to politicians, right? So that is nothing new. But what I think happened this time is because some unions took a stand, well, we're not that 4%. So some unions decided not to take any 4% like the PSA and other unions, and some took it, like the Amalgamated and Port of Spain took it, I think Tutor took it, that original 4%, and that caused a breakaway or a rupture in the trade union movement.
So why haven't problems?
So now that the government has offered 10% to the PSA, because the PSA had gone public in a Labor Day celebration in Faizabad, and they said, well, look, we are not taking that 4%. And others joined them, and others didn't join. But those who took the 4% earlier, they now want to come overnight and inherit the 10%. And you see, people must be fair. You see, in life, you have to take a side. That is why it's a religion. Some people took Catholic, some took Anglican, some took whoever. Right? In life, you must take a chance. You must, right? You have to take a chance. You cannot play two-sided all the time and expect to win. That is why old people say crave all, lose all. You have to take a side, right? And we in Trinidad, we do not like to take a side, right? And that is what those trade unions who didn't take the 4%, the rumbling now, those who took the 4% rumbling now about this 10% situation. But I'm thankful that the PSA didn't take that 4% because I don't know what would happen to people like me now. Because all we would have gotten for our services was $4,000 on this current period of the collective agreement, which is from 14 to 19, right? So I am grateful that the gentleman with the Senate, Mr. Baptiste, Leroy Baptiste, and Ms. Felicia Thomas, that they hold strain so that people could enjoy at least the fruits of their labor, because most of us now are approaching 70, who not 70 already, right? So we have to be grateful for that. So I don't want to hear this talk about the thing. You have to take a side, right? You have to take a side. So that is what I have to say. If you all want me to comment on any other matter, but
well, we're going to change the topic after the hour, so stay tuned and you can call back.
Okay, well, thanks.
Okay.
Mr. Machasen.
How are you doing?
Good. Yeah, good.
Okay. My position is that, unions' stock in trade is people, right?
Yes.
And if you understand that a union power also is numbers. So if your power is numbers and you have an election and you have a particular interest, it is just sensible to align yourself with the party you think will win the elections.
Yeah,
practical way to look at it too.
And to be honest, it is a gamble.
It's a gamble.
But what is it not to make the gamble?
Exactly. But we see how it work out for some unions. The tutor, what happened with tutor?
And I said I remember the late Mr. Dumas was telling me that. He said, listen to me. If you side with the state, they're going to say you sell out. If you go against the state, they're going to say you're stupid. You don't win. You don't win. If a union agrees with something the state says, if the state is the employer, and the state has a policy and you agree with it, they're going to say you're part of the party. And if you disagree with the state's policy, they're going to say you're part of the opposition.
Correct.
So you don't really escape any type of labeling. There's nobody who is white as a dove. That's a fallacy. And as I say, I do not know Ms. Baptiste Primer's party card number, but in understanding her role and function, I am hesitant to think that she joined just after the PSC. She didn't join after. She maybe took off one hat. if that caller remarks are well placed. But these things are happening all the time in the background. All the time. They're the conversation. So join us after the break. We switch the topic on the Third Empire.
You've got bills to pay. And so do we. Let's go pay some bills on the street 919 FM.
Mommy, your dream came true. I gonna walk down the aisle.
Finally, show me a ring.
Of the plane.
What?
With KFC and Copa Airlines down the aisle promotion.
Well, take me on the trip now.
Win an all-expenses paid trip for two to one of 5 Copa Airline destinations with KFC. To enter, you can either buy an onion ring sandwich and upload the receipt, or upload a cool pic of you enjoying your onion rings with the hashtag #ShowMeARing. 2 winners will be selected, and weekly KFC vouchers are up for grabs too. See social media for details. Promotion ends September 6th and is approved by the NLCB.
Join us.
strictly local radio show, blazing the best positive hits out of TT.
Hottest radio show.
Welcome. You are now locked in.
Every Saturday, 6 to 8 p.m., blazing the very best in Trinbago music and more, sending the heartbeat of the Twin Islands straight to the world.
This service is a massive communication product that aims to provide a new media platform for local TT entrepreneurs.
You're now locked into one of the hottest radio shows.
Send us your voice notes or call in live and rep your district. Whether you're in East, West, North, South, or Sweet Tobago, this is your show, your sound, your culture.
Hottest radio show.
Strictly local, hosted by the one and only DJ Flex 868. Don't miss it. Every Saturday, 6 to 8 p.m. Only on the streets 91.9 FM. The vibes, the culture, the sound of Trinbago.
We blaze all the best in TT. Hashtag rep your district.
Hi there, I'm Lester Suglal, inviting you to join me on the first, second, and third Saturday, 8:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. for the program Slow Gospel Music, and on the fourth and fifth Saturday from 8:30 p.m. for an extended version of Slow Gospel Music on Street 91.9 FM.
Chicken, one regular popcorn chicken, 4 regular sides for only $144.95. Crunch after crunch with KFC.
Share the live. Share the live. The Street 919 FM on Facebook and Instagram. Share the live. Iowa George on Instagram. Share the live. Iowa TV and Street TV on YouTube. Share the live. The Street 919 FM.
We are back.
We are back on Third Empire, and on the last hour here, we're going to look at a positive story, a human story, a life story. I'm going to let the senior lead on this story. I'm just going to tend to something, and I'll be right quickly back. But the senior would lead on this story. Some positive things we want to talk about this afternoon in the last hour, and we hope that you would, listen and do give your comments as usual. Senior, take it away.
Yeah, what we have been talking a lot about over the few months that we've been on air is the issue of crime to a large extent, and what part the different elements of solving crime plays to bring it to arresting the situation. One of the big things in Trinidad and Tobago for us is the education system, and how education to a large extent is delivered and how it is accessed by most of Trinidad and Tobago. The challenge here is that what we over the last few weeks we had, a lot of things have been happening, but in particular over the last 2 days we had the result, the C and the CSEC results, and also CAPE results coming out. And I note 2 particular stories in the newspapers today, the one with the marriages and the pariag. And there was another one with another young lady who did exceptionally well in those exams. The two students who did very well in CAPE and is subject to let me see what page on the Guardian. I think it's the 3rd page on the Guardian, the article, right? A lot of things jumped out with that article to me, and I saw it more or less like as a kind of human interest story, but it provides a significant guide to what is expected or what should happen in society for us to have that kind of perfect education system, and how education could work for us, because to a large amount of people, education might be the way out. And I remember growing up, and even when I was of age, I tell my daughter, and they're going to school sometimes, you know, you're poor, you're black, you're living in an impoverished community, and probably the only thing that equalizes you is sometimes education. And so one of the things you have to be is discipline. Put your head down and try to acquire the same thing that the people who are held in the echelon of society acquired, so that at least you will have a chance of competing. And in these two cases, the two things that there are few things that jumped out at me. In the case of the young man who would have gotten 8 CAPE subjects, 6 of them or 7 of them were 1s, and he gave a narrative of how he got there. And one of the things he said is that, well, and among the things he said were that one has to be disciplined. So he said that sometimes he would study for 9 hours, and I find that to be very difficult, but study for 9 hours. But he always had both parents working with him, both parents that he could have counted on. I think the young lady, the Pariag young lady, said the same thing. I wouldn't call the names of the school and thing. You can read the article in the newspapers, and I think it is page 3 of The Guardian. But what they indicated to a large extent is co-parenting. And in the second article, that is the article, the Pariag reaps reward for strong co-parenting. Her parents had separated, and her parents had separated at a very young age. But what she indicated is that although her father lived in Sangre Grande and her mother in Pinal, her father she was always able to count on her father to be able to assist her in when she had difficult subjects where she needed assistance with. And the same thing and she gave the advice that parents who would have separated should not neglect the child, or one or the other should not neglect the child, and still be there to co-parent the child. And that, to me, jumped out, because to a large extent, one of the things we see as an ill, one of the things that we see as a challenge to keeping a lid on crime is single parent or single parenting. To a large extent, single parents, in most cases, especially women, female, they have a lot of challenge to deal with. They to get this kind of result is kind of difficult. Sometimes they will have to give up a lot of things. Remember, you talk about an article, something similar to that, sometime where this editorial was saying that sometimes some mothers have to rationalize between their own ambitions and aspiration and taking care of their children and bringing them to a standard, this kind of standard. Sometimes it's a very, very difficult road to walk. But what these two articles demonstrated, accented in particular, is the need for both parents to play a significant role in taking that child to the end of, well, in this case, not the end, because one is going on to study law and the other one something else, but they were supported to a large extent by their parents. But they also indicated other work-life balance, which to me is critical for the understanding of students who are studying and that kind of thing. The marriage gentleman said, well, his mother is a vice principal, and his father is a teacher and also a pundit. And he was saying that apart from the support he got from his father and grandparents and uncles and aunts, because it's a kind of extended family kind of situation, he was saying that he never gave up football. He always found time to play football. Even on recess, he would get away and would play football, a good football game and that kind of thing. He mentioned chess and how the strategic nature of chess. And I remember the first time when I started playing chess, I was young, but I was taught chess by a nephew No, a cousin of mine, a younger cousin of mine. And one of the things I learned with chess is a thinking game. It's really a strategic. If you learn to play chess, you play chess? No. Yeah. But if you learn to play chess, you will see it really is a thinking game. It allows you to develop a certain kind of discipline. To be able to think strategically. You had to think 3-4 moves down the road and set it up in a particular way that it will happen. And that's chess. And the thing is, all these things were things that accented this young man's journey to get that 8 Cape, because he identified certain significant things that to me, because today we live in a kind of social media, we have a lot of students who I would call social media junkies. And to me, to a large extent, that is creating some problems, because we have learned to just flip through things and learn on the go, as opposed to sitting down and planning and strategizing and being disciplined to get the job done and study. And the gentleman spoke about that in his narrative of how he got there. The young lady also spoke about the young lady who did almost the same thing. She spoke about parenting also, co-parenting, because her parents had separated at a very young age. And she also spoke about the need for discipline. She spoke about how AI would have assisted, but the need to understand how to use AI. And she also said, as a warning, that AI, you can't use AI just copy and paste, and because AI produces a lot of false data a lot of the times. And these things to me jumped out at me, but to a large extent it provided a guide as to how students and how parents should approach this whole thing, or as we call education.
So my question to you, therefore, is the idea or the notion that single parenting is an obstacle to success, is that notion still pertinent?
Well,
now, before before you answer, my caveat is not all situations are the same, and not all children are the same. So even in terms of this divorce, what affects one child may not necessarily affect another. So we are not creating rules and saying all and all. We can't make those generalizations. However, a single parent in 1990
different from a single
is not a single parent in 2026. And there are advantages and disadvantages in both contexts.
But I see more disadvantages as a single parent. I mean, unless, of course, the co-parenting model, where you have that synergistic relationship between parent, child, and both parents and child. And what is also a challenge for some mothers is sometimes they may be a single parent for different fathers. There may be about 4 or 5 children in the situation, and you have to survive that. And they're young. You have to survive that. You have to get a job. Most of the time, you may not be as marketable as the other kind of situation, and therefore, and then you don't have the help from the father. So obviously the opportunity available to the child will be different or diminished, and that is a problem, or that could be a challenge, a significant challenge. So those children who rise above that to a large extent, most of the time, sometimes they do it on their own, sometimes they're just genuinely smart and probably they were able to be controlled in a certain way in the home, because sometimes it is really, really difficult for a parent to, and we talk about that in the article, the editorial, a couple months ago, where we talk about this psychologist was saying that it's difficult sometimes to rationalize between your own ambition, personal ambition as a mother sometimes, and parenting children to get that kind of success.
So then, well, I do have my different philosophical issues with the terminology that we use. And this is not the place to debate that.
No, I mean,
because I do feel that
we say things loosely sometimes.
Yeah, I do feel you really can't be a single parent, at least biologically, unless it was the Mary was the only single parent that we knew. You understand? We're talking about raw biology. So at any instance, two people were responsible for making this child. What we do after is a mystery. Somehow one person, for whatever reason, and I do admit there are sometimes very legitimate reasons, but one person gets to disappear and ball, nah, not me. Nah, not me.
Yeah, well, and that's the problem. But note there was another young lady in another article that young lady, I think it was in the Express, and she was of a different. She was of African descent, I think. But I want to also put another thing in the pot, because to me, you have more single parenting kind of situation.
Look at here.
Yeah, single parent kind of situation emanating from more the African families and that kind of thing. And that the demographics will show that it is more prevalent among that family. So that the question you asked there is real. I mean, you would see maybe the family structure in the probably the East Indian to a large extent, and the other races, Chinese and Syrian and that kind of thing, is more rigid and more structured, as opposed to what happens in a lot of African descent families. And the data shows that clearly. So
and the truth of the matter, so I'll fast forward to the reality and not get into those debates, not today. Because that's not where we were going with the conversation. The truth of the matter is that you were discussing there can be a formula that might not work for all, but there may be a formula for success.
Yes.
If we insist on co-parenting, which involves a number of things. Sometimes the law looks at the economic aspect or majors on that aspect. So you have to put the money in the court. But this father in the article you described, he did more than that. And he was amenable. The child testified that I could have depended on my father in other ways as well. Now, if you know geographically where Pinal is and Sandy Grande is, it had no Mako thing going on there. He wasn't peeping on his ex-wife, and she can't peep on him. To say that,
but clearly it was never about that.
Yes,
they were together and
correct. And they separated. I'm saying that he had to have genuine motive to be involved in his child's life. He made that decision. And they made that decision. And no matter what transpired, we don't know what happened in between, but they stuck to that commitment. He maybe wasn't the most faithful guy in the block, and we can't swear for the lady. But that's not our business. What we know from the article is that they committed to treat co-parenting, which has a number of responsibilities apart from the economics of it. He didn't just commit to pay the school fee. Because some of us could do that well. You know, but don't come in for no pity. I ain't going no pity. Pity is for woman. Well, let's just sit down here and talk. Pity is for some of us. Some men take that stand. Some men discount their own involvement. I have heard some men talk about the child being used as a weapon.
And that is a reality also.
And that is also a reality. And that affects children a lot. That affects children a lot.
But when that happens to me, something or some breakdown, something happens somewhere that and most of the time is almost is right after birth, or you know, but something would have happened that would have created that kind of situation, because to a large extent I don't see people being motivated just to do that if people take care of their responsibility.
The girl said my parents was divorced when I was 3, but they were still great co-parents. Tell me how she knows this at 18.
Well,
they had to make an impression on her.
Clearly she was seeing her father.
Yes. So it couldn't make up that. They would still communicate and do their best for me and my sister, Kira. So it's 2 children, right? She added, although father lived in Sangre Grande and her mother remained in Pinal, she said both of them continued to play active roles in our upbringing. If I had problems with my schoolwork, I would ask my father and he would help me and explain everything nicely so that I would understand. It have some men out here saying, go and let your mother ask you, man.
You see? I even want to go there, but yeah. But
no, I'm saying that is a real thing. We somehow feel a breakdown in the relationship equals a breakdown in the responsibility. And we saddling that on the new guy. You say, listen to me, your mother said me and she done, don't ask me no questions. Let he do maths. If she like, he could do maths. We mix up the thing. We mix it up. And that is true. And we're dealing with this. We know there are some legitimate cases for other issues, right? But we're dealing with this. And it goes to show you, and we know that from an education point of view, men have a serious role to play, fathers, in educating their children, in education. Good? Mommy might be more qualified. You know, we find that today. You know, today's demographic is a bit different. But you still have a role. And this gentleman played a role, a commendable role in his daughter's education. And that is something the child pointed out. His support became especially important as she tackled the demanding CAPE workload. She admitted that the transition from Form 5 to Lower 6 was initially overwhelming. She came from an all-girls school, Holy Faith Convent, then to Shiva Boys. So, you know, she's dealing with a different dynamic here.
Different orientation.
And in education. And this is where daddy is important. This is where his role is important. And
she spoke about her first term, how difficult it was for her to overcome that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is really commendable, and hats off to these two parents. Hats off to them, and hats off to the mother, Sintra, and hats off to Max in staying true to their commitment to the child, even though the commitment to each other may have undergone different circumstances because they divorced. Okay, and that happens. That is a reality that we do have to face. They did not allow it to affect their relationship with their responsibilities to their daughters. Not only one, two, because she testified on behalf of her little sister as well. You know, they would still communicate and do their best. Communication. This is a child speaking here. We're reading from her testimony. Communication and do their best. And you sense in this child a sense of gratitude. She has a very distinct sense of gratitude for whatever her parents
and mind you,
contributed.
Mind you, maybe somebody call us who have never done it can't appreciate it. But the transition from CXC to Cape is a huge leap on it. Huge leap on it. It's like leaving secondary school and going to university one time. It's a huge leap. So to get 8 ones and with ones, with more majority ones, I mean that's a great feat. So you really need to certainly have that kind of support to be able to do that without having any kind of psychological breakdowns and that kind of thing. Just say. And that, you know, I'd really like to hear what the callers have to say as it relates to the dynamics that are at play in situations like this, or to be able to get here.
Yes, yeah, and we're dealing with fathers and education of their children, the role that they play, and they play a role. Sometimes it's not always a leading role, depending on the father's orientation, depending on his discipline. You know, mommy might be more into the active part of it. That doesn't diminish the father's role nor his responsibility. And in the second article, this lady said she was a single parent. You know, Summer Lashley and her mother, Darlene Wren, faced financial difficulties juggling domestic and school responsibilities, sometimes running short of funds to pay for lessons. That is a reality.
Right, but I mean, I don't really want to bring this in, but one is African family and one is the other two are East Indian families.
Yeah.
And some of us get through, right? Even with those challenges, some people get through. So I mean, it is not totally, it doesn't totally impede the access to, you know, these kind of success, but to a large extent it becomes a really challenge.
So are there differences in orientation towards family between East Indians and Africans?
If there are differences, I think so. I mean, so culturally, yes.
Some things tend to tell us that.
Yeah, but the data, the analytics, everything, it shows you that.
And perchance, members of the pavilion, you may want to tell me what accounts for some of these differences.
I mean, if you look at the amount of people in prison, and you just do the data, you will see probably about 80% of the people in prison are of African descent. And all of these situations, single parent, family, and that kind of thing, would have stemmed from that too.
And their common characteristics. Yeah. So callers, you've been out there in the society. You see, you observe, you have grown up. In your view, are there differences in orientation towards family life, family values between different ethnic groups in Trinidad and Tobago? We're not analyzing a better and worse scenario. That's a value judgment. That's not the aim of the conversation. But have you noticed, depending on where you grow up, you might grow up in South, you might grow up in town, you might grow up in the East, West. Is that your view, that there are differences in orientations towards family, attitudes towards family and values, and things like of that nature between our ethnic groups in Trinidad and Tobago? Is that definitely part of our reality? And therefore, if that is so, you might perhaps want to venture to tell me why do you think it's so? Is it because of religion?
Well, first it starts with culture, but the question you might want to ask is what might be the solution, whether or not we may want to probably apply some kind of affirmative action in dealing with certain things, or fixing certain things, or maybe we put laws in place to deal with parenting in a particular kind of way. But something has to happen because the propensity for single parent is higher on the African side.
Good afternoon, caller.
How's that?
How's that, caller?
Pleasant good evening to each and everyone. Share the live. And I like this topic too bad. This topic has no boundary and no discrimination in it. Because I will start with this line. When Nani and Nana was there, and when Granny and Grandpa was there, when we go by Grandpa, and it's by 6 o'clock, we inside. We don't eat, and we sit down and listen to the radio. Nani and Nana used to have the boys and them, they come in 6 o'clock from the bush. And the young ladies and them stay inside the house. Then they come out in to take breeze. While we coming up the road now, somewhere along the line, we as Rashford get too big. And you see what Mr. Patterson said in religion? There where we went, where we started to fall by the wayside, on the boat side. Because when the young ladies come out on the boat side, and they bring home our belly, as they used to say a long time, we come right up and we say we will move on. And some had it very hard to accept it. And the set who didn't accept it, that tradition bill, and those set of children didn't get the love and try and get the guidance until we come up the road and we say, hey, that is my child, I will groom it. And we start to break down. Family values on the both sides break down, and religion went one side. Because I think you two gentlemen was growing up when we pass somebody straight, when we reach home, we mother them, that time they didn't have phone, but me know how they used to go home. That, hey, we pass on each other good afternoon. Eh? We had to walk backwards. But you see, those values went through the doors.
Correct.
So now the society now start taking over with children.
Correct.
From the 80s coming up. And when we enter the 90s, then society had more control than we. Because we was opened up now to United States that children have rights, and under age they can tell them, mother, you can't beat me, and I will clean my room when I want. And when we start to copy outside tradition, now we can even talk to you in present time. Hey, go into your room. They call it the authorities for we. So when we don't have something to keep them in check and balance, you see how the runaway horse this come, as we just said. But this children, we talk about human beings. So you see how humans get delinquent? Because if they know the consequences for not keeping the right path and the tradition, because we find it was too hard to go by granny and grandpa. We had to sit at home, and when go there and come back in time, and straight to church. You see, that is why today we're supposed to have a big whip in place. And it's what they bring in schools that now when they behave bad, they can be charged as an adult or just for the crime. So if you didn't have a good day, it's because of the economic. Then when you have to get up and go and look for income, we leave them unattended and other people train them, and that's how we lost them. So how's that?
You know, all of what was said is true. But we have to, we you know, Trinidad and Tobago have to find some kind of perfect mix. I'm not saying we can find it, be small, right? But while we may have some problems with the education system itself, we may have some problems with parenting. All these things redound to what kind of society we have at the end of the day. And you know, I was taking a note of something. And again, it have to do with demographics, it have to do with race, it have to do with a lot of things. If you, you know, I have a little event space. And when young people of a particular ethnic group come by me, they only want to hear one kind of music, you know. And that music is the most denigrating kind of music, but that's all they want to hear. They don't want to hear nothing else. That's all they're playing. And to a large extent, when I say they've become like social media junkies and that kind of thing, that is where they are getting that from. But the article identifies certain elements of that and advised or guided students as to what they should accept and what they shouldn't accept. Because I think it was the gentleman or the young lady spoke about AI and the use of AI and why we shouldn't use AI, how we should use it, and how whether we should trust it or not, you know, that kind of thing. And the thing is, you really have to train your children to think. You really have to come to the stage where people, you can't give up on things like reading, you can't give up on things like training your children to critically think through certain things. You read the papers and you read between the lines, you understand certain things, and you know, that kind of thing. And all of these things are part of the socialization of young people and acquiring or achieving these kind of results.
Well, let's take this caller. Good afternoon, caller.
Yeah, good afternoon, Match referee here again. Oh God, I love this topic too bad. I have to say I was fortunate that I grew up in a house that my father, all he could have done was sign his name, and my mother, well, she reached third standard in primary school. But they recognized me from very young as a bright child. What we call that, well, as you say, a bright child. And I was sent to a kindergarten school at the age of 3. Right? From there, at 1968, I failed. They claim I failed the common entrance. But in 69, I got my first choice and I went to Holy Cross College in Arima. Right? So the first point I want to raise is my mom and father never separated from the time I was born. Well, they die now. Right? So I was fortunate. I had no step parents like that. Right? But the thing is, talking about socialization, when I passed common entrance from Blanchisha's government, I had to go to school in Arima, 24 miles away. Right? And that is where I started no support down there in terms of extended families and something who were living in Arima. And that is why I say the common entrance caused a lot of jealousy and envy and thinking that if you were from the countryside like me and you pass for a school in Arima or to Napuna or wherever, some of your extended family might say their children cannot pass or didn't pass their own school. So they will have that kind of problematic kind of thing. So at the time my mother had to make a decision. She said, boy, I cannot leave your father up in Blanchard and come to Sibot in Arima to go to school. So I'll have to travel. So I traveled up and down Arima Blanchard Road for about 3 years.
Wow.
35. Right?
By what means? Well, what do you say?
By public transportation means because in those days the PTSC used to be from San Grande was the depot, or what they call the depot.
Right.
And those buses used to be running on time. People like Poser and all these people were gear, all these people were conductors and things. And the buses used to be on time. I used to have what they call a weekly ticket. That ticket, they punch it by day, come from Monday to Friday, to and fro. Right? So they'll punch in the morning, punch in the evening. But the point I'm trying to raise is that we mentioned the word ethnicity in that discussion. And yes, I will say the East Indian ethnicity, they support their members of the extended family more than Afrocentric people. Right? So I fell a victim to that. And I had to fight my way. Well, eventually I finished school. And then I didn't study anything after I left school for about 12 years after. And then a day I was working and I saw a works management program from what they call the Old Extramural in San Grande by Winston Williams in Northeastern College. And I started studying from there. And one of the lecturers, a man named Mr. Law, he said, boy, he called me and said, well, you should go to university. Now I didn't have no money to go to university at that time because they had closed down my job in 1986 when the NARU came in power. Right? Now, 88, they closed down my job in 88. And I tell myself, I stayed home almost 2 years. So in 1919, March, I decided what my first pay I go and pay university some money. Right? To study. And so I started to study. Right? But I also grew up in an environment where although my father only could have signed his name, he every hour on the hour, he put on the radio station to listen to news, and I have to listen to news. Now my mom she used to buy newspapers, and there was a Mirror at that time, the first Mirror from the Thompson Group in England, that first Mirror, and then they had the Guardian, and long after the Express came, right? And so I used to read
Mirror, boy, I remember that.
Yeah. That big broadsheet, yeah, and the Mirror paper. One of the things I always remember from that original Mirror, there was a competition they called Missing Ball, which you had to put an X where you feel the ball is between two players fighting for the ball. But that was, you understand?
And the tabloid.
So I still love reading newspapers.
You remember the tabloid color?
Huh?
The tabloid, which was the tabloid.
Yeah, the tabloid Mirror. That tabloid Mirror, yeah. That was owned by the original Thompson Group from London. Yeah, so I decide, to fight up, and I fight up until, I did my degree and whatever it is. I have 2 letters behind my name. But coming back to this talk, I remember one of the first lectures I got in Introduction to Politics. One of the lecturers said, he told us as students, he said, education don't make you rich, but education give you status. Right? And I live to see that is true. Education do not get students, but people rich. Right? If you walk on the street, the straight and narrow road, you must have a little status, and that is it. But education is good, and I feel happy for all those children, especially rural children like myself, who did well in school. The young lady there, the father stand up, the mother stood up, whatever they could, and that is what this thing is about. And it goes back to family again, right? Which is a key tenet of social fabric, is that parents must learn, find a way to live together. And old people say, let your children grow up in your foot. But that's country talk now. That means let your children be wherever you are. Mr. Matasumal know that, right? And they say, let your children grow up in your foot.
My experience, my secondary school experience was similar to yours, no?
Yeah. So you could guide your children. And a lot of children, especially rural children, there's lost opportunities. Some had to leave school. I remember there was a fellow from Lupino, when I was going to college, his parents couldn't buy his books. And when I told my mom, I said, hey, I have a colleague there who have no books. She said, look, I said, no, the college don't allow that. Every student have to have their own books. And finally, people talk about the Catholic Church. When I passed college in 1969, my father couldn't buy my books. $50. He had to borrow $50 from the Catholic Church. Right? Although the first time and last time he borrowed money to buy books from me. And so I was able to enter secondary school. Maybe if priest did say no or something, maybe I would have never seen college. Right? Because the extended family, they have, and this one I have, and the other one I have, and so it is. So that's the kind of thing. So I could speak wholly about these things, you know, man. Right? Especially coming from people talk about they from Lavantin. But we are people like me who from underprivileged areas. We are not from depressed areas, we're from underprivileged areas, and we had to fight and struggle. Right? I remember at a certain time the government used to give people like my parents $30 for a term. They used to give that for the poor, the students from the lower status, something, or the lower strata, as they say. Right? $30 a term. They used to send a check to the school, and the priest used to give you the check, and you carry it to your mothers, your parents, so man, they will change it. Yeah? And that's the kind of thing we have to face. So I'm happy.
In my time, caller, it was $270.
But look at that. There was $30 in the early 70s, $30. I remember people like me and the late Captain Theophilus came from the army. We were the lowest strata, some of us, and one or two of us got that $35, which we were grateful for. Yeah, in the college.
So, you all used to get milk on an evening, caller? You all used to get milk on an evening?
Milk and biscuit?
No, not in secondary. In primary school, we got milk 10 o'clock in the morning, recess break. But we got nothing like milk in the college. Yeah, when I was going primary school, up in Blanchisha's government, we got milk and biscuit. Yeah, we got milk and biscuit.
Milk and biscuit.
And that milk used to be all on top of your lip when we are around washing out after you drink it. Good quality. Yeah.
That was part of the nutrition.
I remember that very good.
Yeah, nutrition, yeah, that's part of the nutrition. Yeah. And of course, we had good nutrition going up in the country because we had fresh fish, fresh provision, wild meat, those who wanted to have wild meat and all this kind of thing. But we grew up primarily on fish and common fowl and you know, and that kind of thing, man, shark. Yeah. So, people must know.
And in them days, you had to mind your chicken.
Yeah, well, you of course, you mind what you call your common fowl.
Right.
And now and then, there's a call wild fowl. Like that's what we call fowl now, chicken now. Yeah. There's a call wild fowl. They'll buy it live and you'll go home and you know, and you'll kill it, the chicken and cook and thing on a Sunday mostly, right?
But that was still
because
like
those days during the week.
It wasn't
those
exactly
days during the week you eat more pigtail and snout and that kind of thing, smoke herring and saltfish. But when the Sunday come now, you're sure you're eating. Whether it's common fowl or what we call the white fowl or whatever now, you know, you had that. Yeah. So people must know all these things, man. Rural children, you know, people from Matlet and all these places, Blanchishes and those days. Now Blanchishes are a little different now because they have the North Coast Road, which had a link from Las Cuevas to La Fillette when Solomon Huchoy retired. Because he also had roots in Blanchishes. He wasn't born here, he came from Jamaica. But his parents had agricultural land up in Blanchishes, so he would have spent times, whenever holidays from Port of Spain, he will go with his parents to their agricultural lands and things. So so when he retired, he built a house in Blanchishes, right, just before the cemetery there. So he was the person who, when he was about to retire in 1974, Blanchishes got current electricity for the first time because he built his house around that time there before he retired. And the road was, you know, we got the adjoining of the road between Las Cuevas and La Fillette. Because I remember as a college, we took a boat, but we strayed nowhere. We took a boat from La Fillette to go Blanchishes, to go Las Cuevas to keep service.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you didn't have no Marcus Road all the time then?
We didn't have?
You didn't have Marcus Road all the time?
Yeah, the road ended at Las Cuevas.
Oh,
so they had to adjoin now between Las Cuevas and La Fillette.
Right.
Yeah, and so now you had continuity right up to Blanchishes. And remember now, after Blanchishes, you cannot continue to go to Maclet further up the North Coast because after Blanchishes Bridge, there's no sort of big roadway again traveling, you know.
And it still don't have that kind of roadway. I mean, it have Lager and Cool Breeze and all that kind of thing through the bush. But it don't have a road, an official road to go from Blanchishes.
No official road.
Still,
Humphrey,
in 2026.
Humphrey, no, we don't. Trinidad, in fact, Trinidad is the only Caribbean island that do not have a road going right around circular. Tobago, you can go right around Tobago, not Trinidad. Yeah. When the NAR was in power from 86, Mr. Humphrey had approached the village council here, asking them for comments and them to continue the road. And so all the villagers and the elders say, they don't want no continuation, the road bandits will come. Bandits still came. Right? And we have no road.
We are kind of people, right?
People might say the same thing next 10 years ago.
Listen, they will keep saying that until Jesus comes.
With the data centers,
yeah.
Of course. I was still going primary school. No, 86 I had finished school. But look at how many years, right? And I believe that people talk about tourism. That area could be a major tourist attraction, because I was telling Mr. Matheson earlier period, there are places that they call Kashipa, Takarib, and Lomak, between Blanchishes and Matlock. And these areas were heavily cultivated in plantation of cocoa and coffee in the 1920s coming down the road. That is why you had the Venezuelan influx in the early in the 1900s.
And the truth is, when the state doesn't develop roadway in these places, other types of people develop agriculture and other types of crops in these places.
No. Well, I mean illegal things.
That's what I'm talking about. If the state doesn't take the initiative to develop the road network.
What the caller is saying is so real. I mean, my family in particular, they had hundreds of acres of land in those areas. I talking about cocoa, coffee.
What became of it?
Nutmeg. It's in high woods now.
Yeah.
Well, nothing became of the lands because they used to use pirogues to transport the goods, like the agricultural products from those like from Romac, Takarib, and the outskirts and Paria Bay, and they will bring the produce by boats to Blanchishes, and then they'll put it in bag it and thing, and then they'll carry it to Ariman to sell. Mali, I think Mali had a center in Triangle and they had one in Arima too.
Yeah, who sell cocoa and thing?
Coffee and copra. Yeah.
Like the chocolate tea we had to grate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And copra used to go to Citrus Growers Association.
Copra some coconut. They use it to make oil with the Coconut Growers Association.
Yes. CGA.
The coconut. Yes, CGA. Yeah. Right? So people doesn't know all these things. Right?
Caller, you make me nostalgic there about country life. I only used to visit country life because my mom is from Rio Claro. But what I admire that every time you go Rio Claro, all the children seem to be playing. While we in Tonga to be doing all kind of work, they playing cricket, they riding box cart. It just seemed to be a free life that I always idealize. Every time I go in the country, these children like they on vacation. And I had to be learning 2 1s or 2 into 2 1.
Is that different?
It's just a different, it was just a different life. Orientation. I remember the cricket in the road. And I was saying, but they crazy.
The coconut branch bat.
Yeah, and the salt biscuit tin for the wicket. So when you get out, you used to hear it from a long way.
yeah, the salt biscuit tin was a wicket.
That does make noise. You must know when you're out.
Yeah, and then you had the bamboo boasting and the carbide boasting.
Yes.
And all these things, Christmas.
And they always want to go in the bush to hunt something, and I scared us. Where are you going? Country life. Country life.
Pick up mango. When mango season, you're going to pick up mango under the trees and all pomarak and all this kind of fruits. Yeah, sapodilla. You're waiting for any birds shake up the sapodilla 3 in the morning and sapodilla in the middle of the road and kaimit and all these things, and you eat it, you get fruit.
City life is just so different. I see them going in people's yard, picking up people's things, and healing out people, and that's it. I scared because I come from the town. You're going to somebody's yard, they want to kill you, but country life was so different, for me observing it back then,
I experienced it live.
Yeah.
Exactly what you call us saying there. I experienced that.
Wow.
But if I have to born a million times, I want to grow up in the country. Don't mind underprivileged or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I feel that experience made me a better, more loving person than maybe if I'd grown up in town or in the suburbs.
Yeah, and Caller, you're so right, because some years ago I was doing a little study, and we ending off the program, so we just let it flow. I was doing a little comparative study with education in terms of rural and urban, and talking to some teachers and some other administrators in rural communities, and I say, you think Kumakak, RC, Katra all inclusive? It's different. It's different. This is not Newtown. This is not Rosary. Rural education is totally different. The circumstances are different. The fundraising different. The Christmas concert different. Santa Claus and all different. When you know.
Now the pronunciation is Kumaka. Although it is pronounced Kumak, it is spelled Kumaka. It's Kumak.
Kumak.
That is the village. Kumak. I went there once, and I was working in Grandi in 2009, I believe it was, and I went Kumak for the first and last time, and that place wasn't developed at all. The church was the school, right, and was served as a school, and then people be watching vehicles as if they never saw a vehicle before, opening their windows, and
it's a plane.
That is how areas like Blanchisseuse and Lafayette were in the early 50s and early 60s and thing.
Yeah.
And that threw me back when I saw how the kind of the culture in Kumak, the village culture, and I said
where is it located exactly?
Kumak is off the Valencia Road. That road when you reach Valencia off the Kumak, you make a left turn. There's a big sign.
Yes.
And you just keep going on that road. Yeah.
And then you go up inside the road.
Yeah.
You go up inside the road.
And there's a whole village in there, not so?
Yeah, the village, but the houses are sparse. It's a sparsely populated village. Yeah. But up to that time when I went. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. The houses were far apart, and and no electricity, and at that time, and I don't know if they have electricity now, but it reminded me of my origins to a point.
Yes.
Yeah. That Kumar boy. Yeah. So we have to people who study people from rural areas and things, but people from rural areas also have it very hard. In terms of food and like fruits and things, they were readily available, like provisions and
I went to Moruga once on same education thing, and the teachers was telling me, sir, you know what is this school up here? It's not the ministry, it's the river. Because you see when the river high, teacher, children, parent, everybody have to go. From that time, rain, you don't have to hear no weather bulletin and no rain forecast. They know. They're from the village. They understand what happens with transport and children on the road. Once the weather turns in, parents don't have to operate and going for the train. You feel as the ministry over the school? No. There's a different dynamic. There's a different dynamic in that part of the country.
I remember in 1962 when that flower hurricane in Tobago. I was 6 years, and I remember seeing coconut tree bending in all kind of forms, and rain. Well, we had a St. John ambulance there, brigade, a St. John ambulance, and the gentleman came and because he made different trips carrying children, make sure everybody got home because we had to leave school, in the height of the thing. We got some of the tail spin, son. At that time, 1963, I'm talking about. But the thing is, we had to be protected as children, and the St. John ambulance that time played a big part to ensure the school children in particular.
Caller, the show is going to close now, so we'll continue tomorrow?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. I can talk all night. I could turn this match into a day-night match. Yeah.
You've got bills to pay, and so do we. Let's go pay some bills on the street 911.